Hello, everyone. This is JY Obone with the Obone Tennis Online Coaching Podcast, coming to you after an incredible Argentina win in the World Cup final. If you did not get a chance to watch that match, that was the greatest World Cup final in history. Now, some personal investment into that, as my entire family is from Argentina. So there was a lot of emotion going into that, and it was a very fun game to watch. So congratulations to Argentina, and hopefully Messi plays at least one more. But if not, that's a great way to go out on top. Talking about tennis now. So this week I wanted to discuss why video is so important for a coach to use in tennis. And tennis is probably the sport that is the most behind in using technology to help its players. If you think about every other sport, football, basketball, they're always watching tape of their games. Baseball, they're watching tape of their games. Golf with their technical analysis. Tennis, I just don't see it enough. You can make, I would love for somebody to prove me wrong that 99% of coaches don't use video on a continuous basis. So obviously at the highest levels, they use it. And now, by the way, I'm not talking about just, social media recording and stuff like that. I'm literally talking about watching matches after they've happened, recording it, seeing what happened, how it happened, recording technical strokes, recording strokes, looking at technical analysis, comparing them to pros, seeing what's right, seeing what's wrong, and going that far. I don't see it, and that's why it's really important that we try to get into this a lot more, especially as coaches, as a profession. And if you're a parent and your child is learning to play the game in an environment where they don't have video analysis, just ask for it. It's a huge helpful tool, and look, I'm going to be 100% open and honest. I have an online business. I use video for it, but I use video because I think it's that much of an important tool. If you think about, let's start first with just trying to teach a player a new stroke, okay? When they're learning something new and you're trying to change their technique and you make them do something new, it's going to feel weird, different, awful, bad. It's not going to feel good. It's not going to feel right. And not only that, they're also going to miss. So the player in their mind is thinking, well, not only does this feel awful, but I can't make a ball. I'm a worse player right now trying to do what the coach is telling me than I was when I was doing what I thought I was doing was right. So why should I believe this coach? And the coach is going to say, trust me. It's very difficult to just blindly trust somebody in the hope of them being right in the future, because what you're going through in the moment is so bad. It is so miserable. So the way to work, now obviously it's been done in the past, but it is so much easier if you actually take video of their stroke, put it side by side with a pro or whatever the coach thinks is perfect technique, and show them what they're doing is wrong, instead of, hey, just trust me. Because if you just do that, it's going to be more difficult. But once they see what they're doing and they compare it to the perfect stroke, there's so much more of an easy buy-in. And then recording their stroke as they're trying to do the new stroke, and when they do it right, even if they miss, show them again, because then you can compare again with what it looks like, what it should look like versus what it used to look like. I was doing this with a player a couple of days ago where I compared his serve to Djokovic, and we looked at just the trophy position and what his old trophy position was versus what it was now and versus what it was next to Djokovic. And he saw that even though the new one wasn't going in as much, and even though it felt awful, it actually looked picture perfect. So it was so much easier for him to buy in. He was actually excited about it. Even if he wasn't making the serve, I would show him the video. He would take a look and be like, oh, yes. And he really, not because he can't feel like he's getting it. So let's make it easier on the player by showing them the video so at least they have the visual buy-in and so they can see what we're seeing and why we think it's correct. So once you do that, it's just so much easier. Also, most coaches are doing private lessons, right? When they're trying to change strokes. Well, they're looking from the opposite side of the court. They can't see the side of the side angle of the player, and they can't see the back angle of the player. And those two sides are hidden a little bit just because of our position on the opposite side of the court. So there might be some things that we miss, especially if the player is playing at a pretty high speed. We're more than likely to miss some things. Maybe we'll get it right, but we can also miss things. So, and then it takes things longer to get there. I've had this happen a couple of times where I'm like, wow, I didn't know you were taking your racket that far back. Wow, oh, I didn't know your wrist was doing that. Because it's hard for me to see it from the other side of the court. Also, if I'm doing a private lesson, I have to make the ball too. If I'm hitting with them, I need to put some sort of focus on my own strokes. So, yeah, sure, I can feed them, but the feed is pretty easy. It's pretty routine. So they're not going to play in such a structured manner. I need to be able to hit with them. It becomes more live. So once I do that, I take some attention away from them. Well, that's why I've always said my tripod is the best assistant coach I ever had, because the tripod puts up the phone or camera, whatever you're using to record, and then it shows me everything I couldn't see and tells me everything I need to adjust. So, that's another reason why video is so important, because you also miss things, all right? Another reason, and this goes more towards the match analysis side of things. So after any match, and especially a loss, the job of a coach is to figure out what happened, all right? And there are two conclusions that usually come after a match. The first one is that mistakes were made and adjustments need to happen. And the next time we play that opponent, if you make those adjustments, you'll have a higher probability of winning just because you're better prepared. The other conclusion is that, hey, look, the opponent was better. There's not much you needed to do different. You just need to get better at what you're doing, and you don't need to change anything. We just continue working on what we're working on, and that's it. The only way you were going to win that day is if you played the best tennis of your entire life. So no worries, we keep on playing. Now, both conclusions are going to be helpful in different ways. But if you choose the wrong analysis, it could be detrimental to the future, because let's just say you as a coach thought that adjustments needed to be made. All right. And you made adjustments, but then it turns out that they were the wrong adjustments. So now you change things and change strategies and spend time working on things that didn't need to be worked on. So now you just wasted the player's time, you wasted your time, and it's going to take much longer for the player to actually get better. So the other side of things is, let's just say you thought nothing needed to be changed. The player had to play a perfect match. Their strategy was correct. The other player was just way too good. Now you don't work on anything at all. But what if actually there were things that you could do better? All right. And now you don't get a chance to work on those things. Once again, it takes longer to get better. I've sat through hundreds of matches as a coach. I've played through hundreds of matches as a player. And, especially as a coach, or both, as a player and a coach, there have been so many times where what I thought happened, watching it live and in person, is not everything that happened. There were times where I thought it was a good enough shot. I watched it on tape, that it wasn't a good enough shot. It was a little too short, or it was too close to the middle. Or, especially if the player I was watching is playing at a very high speed, the odds of me missing things have increased even more. So maybe I missed some footwork patterns that were incorrect, because I'm having to move so fast looking from one side of the court to the other, I can't really focus on things. So that's where I need that video after the match, so I can slow things down, use the freeze frame, go frame by frame, see what I missed, and then I can really determine what actually happened in that match. Also, when I'm sitting there watching a match, it can be an emotional ride, You get nervous sometimes, or you get upset, or oh, it's a big moment. And so yes, it can be an emotional ride, and sometimes more emotional for the person sitting on the sideline than the player, because the person on the sideline has no control. They really don't know anything that's going to happen. When you can't do anything about things, it's you feel even more nervous and stressed out. I've heard that from so many players. I've experienced that so much, sitting on the side of a court, heart pounding, feeling like I'm about to have a heart attack. So when you're in that kind of state of mind, you also miss things because you're not calm and relaxed. You can't interpret things correctly. You're too emotional. So you have to get to video analysis in a quiet room, calmly, much later on, when you can really analyze things and see things from a better angle. That's the other thing too. Sometimes you're not sitting in a proper angle. If you're on the side of the court instead of a little up in the back, you can't see everything that's happening in front of you. The angles just look different. So, I think us as coaches need to do a significantly better job bringing video into our coaching methods, because it's more of a, I wouldn't say guarantee, but it definitely gives us a higher probability of truly figuring out what the player needs to work on or not work on. Sometimes nothing needed to happen. Sometimes there were times where I thought I saw a mistake, and I looked at the video and no, actually it was okay, or something else happened. So can you imagine if I just kept telling the player, no, that's wrong, hey, do this, hey, do this. Now they're actually having to correct something they didn't have to correct just because I saw something incorrectly. So use the video analysis. It's going to help you become a better coach. It's going to help the player get better. And if you're a parent and you can't, if you're a parent, try to get your matches video recorded so that the coach can watch it. Again, biased opinion, that's what I do. But why do I do it? Because nobody else does it. But I think it's just such an important tool to really, because the ultimate goal is to try to create the most effective developmental plan that helps a player get better faster than all their competitors. I mean, that's what we're ultimately trying to do as coaches. How can I get this player better than the other player so that they can achieve their goals? Because if they don't get better fast enough and their peers are getting better faster than them, well, then they're not going to move up and achieve their goals. So that's what we're trying to do. How can we get this player better the fastest? Use video. Every other major sport uses it. We have to do it. Parents, if you're in a program, if your child is in a program that doesn't use it, well then ask them to do it. If they're not going to do it, then you have to start asking questions. Are these coaches really trying to do everything possible to help your child get better? Something for you to start considering at least, right? So video, let's start using it. Let's get better out there, and let's get better as fast as we can. Have a good day.